All right, greetings. Welcome back. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 72, coming to you from the Pine Room Studio, downtown Wheeling, across the hall from our wonderful Watchdog studio, where we're on 7 hours a week. Be sure and check us out Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We got a big show coming up this Friday, so you're going to want to check it out. A couple of good guests, and we have a very exciting thing to announce. Our Lunch Madness is kicking off, so should be a really good time. We're going to have Isaac Basinger on talking on a Nailing It Down segment, talking about Wheeling Nailers, and then we have Kurt Stein, former Wheeling Central football player, went to Marshall University and now coaches over in Maryland. He's had a really successful coaching career so far. So we got those two guests on Friday, as well as the Lunch Madness bracket unveiling. So good stuff happening right now. We're down to the Super Bowl right now, the final two teams, as everything is set. We'll recap those games from the conference championship round and go down some of the things that happened in the weekend of sports. Sam will join us in the final segment of the show, so we look forward to that. We got the Busch Light Clash coming up this week from the Los Angeles Coliseum, so it's going to be awesome. Good to have NASCAR back. We're close to season, just 2 weeks away from Daytona, so this Sunday will be 2 weeks away, so that's really good news. Football winding down, and now some of the better sports starting to kick into gear right now. English Premier League is got some midweek games going on right now, so a little bit of activity happening around the sports world here. Big college basketball card coming up the rest of the week as well. All right, so we had another really good week last week. We were up 38 units over the last 2 weeks. Up about 15 and a half units last week alone, so it was a pretty good one. Our golfs, I didn't count the golfs in there because I don't know how people will bet them, so it's hard to just give you a basic play because I haven't been specific enough in there, just kind of giving out my top plays each week. We were 6-3 though, cut wise, so if you played those guys top 20s and top 10s, you had some winners definitely. Still haven't hit an outright. Another bomber comes in there. We'll talk about that later in the show. We've got Pebble Beach Pro-Am this week, so another good tournament there. But as I said, up over 15 units on the week, which is really good. Up 38 for the last two. I was 2-1 in college basketball, 4-3 in the NFL, 5-1 in tennis. And Sabalenka comes through, wins the women's final. Would have really had a nice one there if Medvedev could have held on against Sinner. Zverev was up big on Medvedev, Medvedev came back and beat him. Then Medvedev was up big on Sinner come back and beat him. So the men's, we had the Final Four almost perfect, but we did not get home with anybody that we needed to. But Sabalenka comes through at around 5.5 to 1 or so. If you could have got her around 6, even some places. Swiatek again, way too low of a price, too short on a hard court, and it just stands to reason that Sabalenka is the most dominant player on a hard court right now. She and Coco Gauff, who was a matchup in the semifinal, are the two best on the hard courts right now. Elena Rybakina was upset. She's pretty good on there as well, but hard courts, Sabalenka is just exceptional. She really is. And if Coco doesn't have that incredible crowd behind her in New York and Flushing Meadows back in the fall, Sabalenka probably would have won that match too. She's probably outplayed her in the last two meetings significantly. But Coco Gauff's very good and she's still very young, so expect them to have many more duels as they both grow into their career. But it's nice to see Sabalenka, a girl who really struggled with the mental game a few years ago and has really put it together, wins back-to-back Australian Opens. It's really a credit to her. It's awesome to see. And it's nice to see a Belarusian athlete win because everyone just hates Belarusian people because of this war that's going on and really has nothing to do with her. She lives in Florida most of her life, and but they don't even put her flag up on the damn screen. So it's just total disrespect for these athletes, and it's disgusting, quite honestly, and that's why ESPN should be ashamed of itself. ESPN is the worst sports network going right now. They're absolutely terrible. They're total garbage. Sometimes you don't have a choice, though. You gotta watch it. So mute it and watch what you can watch and avoid it at all costs. Any of their opinion shows or talk shows, they're just littered with idiots. There's nobody with any good opinions or any real brains out there at all. They're all a bunch of raving morons, and it just shows that from the top. They're a wacko nut job. I don't know. They're out trying to make political statements when they're supposed to be a sports network. Just not what we envisioned when that network came along all those years ago and was basically the highlight of every American household who likes sports. But not anymore. Those days are over. So sad that the tennis is over. Always depresses me when the majors are done. 2 weeks goes fast. And now you got to go back to watching this garbage, these entitled idiots on TV playing basketball and football. So definitely not my favorite thing. But the good news is I got to wait a couple months, and we have the French Open coming up in the late spring. So that'll be good there. All right, so as I said, up 38 units over the last 2 weeks. Sam hits his anytime touchdown last week with Zay Flowers, so he was a little bit ahead. He had Aguilar and Flowers. Coach nothing, Chris nothing. I'm 1-0 last week again with Kansas City as my best bet against my Ravens team, which is sad, but kind of knew it was going to happen. I'm 19-11 in my best bets on the football season. So that'll be winding down. They only got one more left, and then it's bedtime for football until next August, and that is a great feeling for someone like me. 35 days until AFL kicks off. Really excited about that, so looking forward to that. So let's recap these games. The conference championship game, start with the AFC game. I was over at Abby's. We had our Abby's Football Club party over there. Thanks to Joey and everybody over there. His staff does a wonderful job. It was really, really fun. So if you haven't checked out Abby's, or if you haven't gone into the football pool, it's really fun. You pick the winners each week, just straight up. You don't have to do spreads or anything. You can have a partner or play alone, and they throw a hell of a party for you. Anything you want to drink for as long as you want, and great food, and it's a really fun time. So suggest anybody get a friend, get in that league, and have a little bit of fun, because it's NFL's not very fun to watch or do anything, but at least you follow the Abby sheet, gives you something, because it can be quite excruciating to watch when you're just betting point spreads, and it can be very frustrating. But the Abby's league is very fun. So anyway, I was over there watching that with a bunch of our group, our George Kettlewell coaching tree. He's the one that got us all in there. So thanks to Champ for inviting all of us, and we have had a long lineage of guys joining up in the last few years, and it's been a great time. I was over there watching that with a bunch of guys. I said last week I thought the Chiefs would win. I love the Chiefs plus the points. I was hopeful that something would change with the Ravens, that they were really going to make a commitment to running the ball, and that their toughness was going to show, and they were going to be able to, get Lamar a couple big plays out of play action or on the ground by design runs or anything. But the game plan, to say the least, was a complete letdown. It was really, really awful. And I don't know if it's Todd Monken who to blame or who's to blame or Harbaugh. I can't imagine it would be Harbaugh, but Todd Monken was he proved why he was been in college for several years, because that game was too big for him. He was trying to outfox Steve Spagnuolo, who's been around doing this a lot longer than Monken has in the pros, and that was a terrible idea. He wanted to make Lamar Jackson into a passing quarterback again, and it's, and people argue with me a lot about it, is like, well, he's a great passer. He's a great passer. I don't question that his mechanics are pretty good, and he throws the ball nicely down the field. I don't question that, but he's not a read through his progressions and thread the needle passer. He's just simply not going to do it. He's not able to do that at a high level. He's just not going to do it. And I don't know how many times you're going to make this mistake that we don't want to run the ball. And when you run the ball 6 times with your running backs, top running game in the league, no design runs for him, maybe one. I don't even know. But the game plan was awful. The coaching matchup was completely lopsided. Kansas City just owned the game, and they had the better quarterback and the better player on the field, and that was Mahomes, and the Kansas City defense was awesome, and the Ravens still had chances. They had Zay Flowers fumbles at the 1-yard line, acts like an idiot. You get a taunting penalty at another point in the game, which cost them a lot of yardage. And then Lamar Jackson with an awful interception. Like, there was 10 minutes to go in a game, and you're throwing this Hail Mary up in the air to 3 Chiefs. It was very disappointing, but it was not surprising in any regard. Everybody would say to me, well, you're not very positive, or that's your team, you're not very positive. Well, you got to be realistic. You got to be able to watch your team. And if you watch the team every week, okay, this team is very good, very good. But if they try to deviate from what has worked for them all season, they will not succeed in the playoffs. And that's what That's what the worst teams do, and that was an awful, awful performance, and I'm sure John Harbaugh is going to be thinking about that for a long time, why he abandoned the running game against a really bad run defense, and yeah, it was just – there's really not much else to say about it. The Raven defense played well enough to win the game again, which I expected them to do. Under was a good one for us. The game did go over the first half, so we were basically 3-1 in our picks in that game. Kansas City money line, Kansas City plus the points, and then under for the game. The over for we had under in this first half, but that one went over. So, but from a betting standpoint, it was a pretty easy game to predict for me. But from a fan standpoint, and I have nothing against Kansas City, so I'll be on them probably in this Super Bowl anyway. So we'll talk more about that later. But moving over to the NFC, another game where maybe, I don't know, I guess the first game the Chiefs were the better team pretty much through the entire game due to the antics of the Ravens. But this game, the Lions and the Packers the last 2 weeks have basically outplayed the 49ers for 30-plus minutes of a game and both lost. And that right there tells me that those teams are not ready to make the jump. Their coaches are both very, 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 very shaky. I know everybody loves Dan Campbell and everybody loves Matt LaFleur. I personally don't think either one of them are that good. I think Dan Campbell is a good motivator. I do think that. But he would be better served coaching like the offensive line or something, something along those lines. He's when a game comes down to where you have to make split-second important decisions that give your team the opportunity to win, I just don't think he's able to separate his emotions from it and make those decisions. And it shows time and time again. And in the regular season, everybody will just say, oh, well, it doesn't make it that much of a difference that he's going for it on these fourth downs, or they're getting a penalty against Dallas and they're still going for it on a 2-point conversion. And they're just silly, silly stuff that the guy did all year that nobody ever wants. Everybody, I love Dan Campbell. He rolls the dice. That doesn't win you any games. That's how many times does rolling the dice win you a game? I mean, how many times? I don't remember it doing it very often. Chelsea, Liverpool, 2-0 Liverpool. Chelsea just had a chance to cut into the lead and they can't score. That was an easy tap in for Mudryk. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, back to Dan Campbell. He's a train wreck, in my opinion. And again, I don't think he's a terrible coach, but when it comes down to winning a big game, I just don't think he'll ever do it. He'll be able to get over the hump to ever do it because he is now gambling. You are gambling. Do you want to gamble, or do you want somebody who's going to be able to say, I know exactly what I need here. I'm going to execute it. My team is prepared for this. We will execute this play. We will win the game. I don't want to have to flip a coin up in the air. That's what that is. It's flipping a coin. When you're gambling on these fourth downs and going for it when you have a chance at 3 points, and I'm not guaranteeing a field goal in those circumstances, but Dan Campbell, he's got to be able to say, okay, what can I do here? I need to get this back to a 3-score game. I'm going to kick this ball because it's 46 yards, it's makeable, we're inside, actually we're not inside, but we're in pretty decent weather. But the decisions that he makes, they blow my mind. And I'm not blaming him for the game. Gibbs fumbled on the next drive after the 49ers got it back and scored the first time. They come right back. They get 14 points in like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, whatever it was. And then the Lions just, can never really recover and get the momentum back. San Francisco played a very, very suspect game there. The Lions' defensive line was blowing the 49er offensive line off the ball the entire game. And that's something that, has been a concern to people that have watched the 49ers as their offensive line. But the Niners made enough plays to get it done. They're a good team. I still don't love Kyle Shanahan. I think he's very, very, very overrated. But there's not that many guys that are probably equal to or better than him. So that's the problem. You're just not going to get any better than that. We'll see if he can break through for the Super Bowl, if he's going to choke it away again. But 2 really, really poor performances. I thought San Francisco would play a lot better game after the scare against Green Bay, but they did not. They just had a little spurt of action to get to Ayuk, that fortunate catch that he made off the defender's helmet, and a few other things that went their way. They made enough plays to win, though, and they have great players, so there's no doubting that, and there's no saying that San Francisco isn't a deserving Super Bowl contestant, because they are. They've been a very good team all season, and are a really strong roster. So I think, hats off to them, hats off to the Chiefs. They make the plays. The experience pays off. And the lack of coaching experience especially in the NFC with the Packers and the Lions, I think it really, really, really worked against both those teams. I thought that the timeout situation at the end when they're down, I didn't understand what they were doing. So if you're gonna be trying to save clock, then you need to use that timeout like 30 seconds before. But if you use it, you got to understand you absolutely just took away probably a chance to get the ball back. So you would have had to have saved enough time to where you could have survived without having 3 timeouts to stop them on 3 plays and make them punt. That's a lot to expect, especially against San Francisco, who can run so many different formations at you and be able to get those pass plays that are like run plays to keep the clock moving, make you use the timeout, but still get yards. So San Francisco is a tough team to stop 3 straight times and have them punt. So I don't think the Lions were capable of doing that. He probably should have, as soon as he got in field goal range, close chip shot range, should have probably kicked. Then you're saving almost up the 2-minute warning. And then maybe you got a shot. Maybe San Francisco gets a penalty because you had been in their backfield all day. And then maybe they're behind the chains and maybe you can stop them and get the ball back. But the Lions lost the game when they made some silly decisions, not kicking that field goal to go up 17 again. Had it gone in, and then the fumble with Gibbs, that's nothing the coaches can do about that. It's just a bad play, and the momentum definitely swung at that point. But San Francisco came out and made the plays they needed to make to win the game. So hats off to them. Hats off to the Chiefs for getting it done when they needed to, because they're both those teams during times this year. San Francisco looked like they were pretty good the entire season. They went through that little lull where they lost 3 in a row. Deebo Samuel was out and stuff like that. But then they got it rolling back. But they haven't really played well the last 5 weeks of this season. And obviously they had a bye in there. But they have not played very well since then. Since maybe the game against, I can't remember, if it was Buffalo or Philadelphia. Philadelphia was a ways back. But whoever they beat up pretty good. There was one pretty decent team they beat kind of late in the season, but they've struggled to get momentum and play a full game, and I think that'll cost them. Now the Chiefs have played pretty well since probably Christmas Day when they got embarrassed by the Raiders. So should be an exciting game. We'll talk plenty more about that in segment number 2, but a few things to go through with you here. The Super Bowl is expected to have a record-setting handle, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be incredible how much stuff's out there. Just amazing. And Patrick Mahomes, we'll get to this later, but I wanted to mention this now. 10-1-1 ATS is a dog, 9-3 straight up. The dude is incredibly good, and he keeps getting disrespected, and I don't understand it. Not to jump ahead, but to me, the wrong team's favored in this game. I just don't. To me, the AFC power rated out by the end of the season, it was clearly better than the NFC, although it was part of the season where I thought maybe the NFC was a little top-heavy, but the teams were better than the AFCs. But the AFC had a lot of depth down to even teams like Cleveland and Houston. I mean, these were good teams. So I think the wrong team's favored here. I think San Francisco's power rating is incredibly lopsided. I'm not saying Chiefs should be favored by a touchdown, but I thought the Chiefs should be -1 or 2 in this game. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. Switching gears a little bit here, going over to hockey here. Goal in the first 10 minutes. Hockey heads into its all-star break this week. It's a Saturday. I don't even want to call it a game because it's basically a tournament. It'll have each of the divisions in a 3-on-3 team. Like the players from each division's teams make up their roster. They play there's 2 semifinal games and then a final. So really don't know I haven't seen any numbers on this yet. So they were waiting. They finalized the rosters yesterday. A couple of guys that were questionable or they're not playing. Jack Hughes is out. Jesper Bratt comes in for him from the Devils. So they're finalizing the roster. So I'm assuming we'll have something made up tomorrow for the numbers on that game. On the first matchups, I don't know who plays first, who the Metropolitan Division plays first or the Atlantic. So check those out. So follow us on Twitter, BLS_PRP, and at the Pine Room Studios. I'll have a play on that game for sure on those first 2 semifinal games. Probably a play on the total and probably a play on a side for sure, and probably a team to win the tournament. But that's Saturday afternoon and evening event from Toronto, so should be something worth checking out there. We also got the Pro Bowl on Sunday, which would be absolutely awful. At least this hockey thing somewhat looks like a real game, at least for the overtime, like an overtime game in a real game. NHL stuff here as far as ATS numbers, or however you want to look at this. Goal in the first 10, I guess that's not really ATS, but from a betting statistical viewpoint, here are the teams right now that are the best with a goal scored in the first 10 minutes. You got Tampa at 35-15. Minnesota 34-15, Ottawa 31-14, and then the last 10, Seattle and Montreal on an 8-2 run, Ottawa 19-5 run, goal yes in the first 10, goal no in the first 10, Winnipeg 30-17 on the season, and Nashville's on an 8-2 run, no goal in the first 10 minutes. First periods, overs and unders, over. Ottawa 31-14, Vancouver 32-17, St. Louis 31-17. And streaks right now, Ottawa 19-5 run over in the first period, and Seattle and Colorado both on an 8-2 run over 1.5 in the first period. Unders for the first period, Winnipeg 7-3, Nashville 9-1 run to the under. That's interesting stuff there. Second period and third period over streaks here. We got an overrun for Seattle, the Kraken 9-1 second period overs. And then you got a slew of teams at 8-2 second period overs right now on an 8-2 run. So that means 8 of their last 10 have gone over the posted total for a second period, whether that's 1.5, 2, or 2.5. Los Angeles Kings, New Jersey Devils, Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, New York Islanders, and the Florida Panthers all 8-2 over in the second period. Third period overs, Seattle and Montreal both on 8-2 runs. Now, the only problem with this is, giving you this data, it'll be fresh coming off the break, but the coming off the All-Star break has been really weird. You've seen sometimes the games trend to the under. Teams are a little sloppy. Teams are a little tired. Or actually, they're refreshed, but they're kind of, I don't want to say, it's a different kind of tired. Not like their body's tired, but they're getting back into the flow of things. They haven't practiced in a few days. They haven't done a whole lot. So maybe they got to get the blood flowing a little bit more again. So the games can kind of be slow and a little bit more deliberate, I guess. But keep an eye out for those, because the one interesting tidbit is the teams coming back off the All-Star break. It's looked like in the past, like if you're a team that played a game, say you came back from the All-Star break, you played on Tuesday night, and then you have another game Thursday against a team who hasn't played yet coming off the All-Star break. Those numbers over the past couple of years have favored the team that had played, strangely enough. So it's getting that blood flowing again, getting your crispness back in your passing, and just all your team and your lines all in sync has seemed to work in your favor. So beware of that. Find a team out there that you like anyway, and then if they had played a game earlier in the week and then play against a team who hasn't, seems like it could be an advantage for you. So NHL All-Star Game, kind of the point in the season where now it's teams are going to have to start making moves, whether they're going to go for it, they're going to dump some people, see what the Penguins do. They probably can't really upgrade their roster a whole lot right now with what they have to offer, and they should not trade any picks. I would like to see him trade Jari. I think that would be a great move. I think teams would die to have him, and he just does not have the mental makeup to be able to win in the playoffs. There's just no way that's happening. So, I would cut bait on him immediately, but the team seems like they just don't want to do that, and they're going to continue to stick with him, and they're going to, they wasted all this money on him, so they'll keep him around. I would get rid of him right now, because statistically, if you don't watch him every night, you might not realize, but the guy's just not a competitor. He's just not. He's talented, but he's just not a competitor, and I think that really works against him. But we'll see what happens coming up after the break. We'll see if anybody makes a trade. There's going to be some teams that need to make a couple acquisitions. It could be pretty dangerous. I mentioned a few of those last week. If you haven't checked that out, go back and watch the show. I gave out a few teams that I thought if they can make some acquisitions at the deadline, they could be dangerous. Same thing applies in the NBA. I believe their trade deadline is next week as things start to get down to crunch time here. You got the Bucks with a new coach now. Got the Lakers really struggling bad. You got the Celtics a little bumpy right now. Sixers, Embiid got hurt. So lots of things, lots of weird stuff. Oklahoma City seems like they're kind of hitting the wall. So NBA, we'll talk to Sam, get his opinion on that. But still, so many things. The Heat also struggling badly right now. So no idea who's going to make a move here that's going to put them over the top. The Knicks right now, playing some of the best basketball of anybody. I didn't really think they were built to be able to win in the playoffs, but talking about maybe they're going to get Malcolm Brogdon, so that could be something that could help them. I still don't think they're going to have enough to beat those really good teams in the East, but we'll keep an eye on that. It's getting near to that point where it's like, okay, it's time to get the roster locked in and see who's going to make a run at this. You'll have some buyouts. You'll have some free agents getting bought out and then signed by another team at the league minimum to try to chase a championship. Rest assured that LeBron, who cries every single night about something, will be crying for some help. It's just poor LeBron. It's just never fair to him. He always gets the worst of the officiating. He doesn't ever get the good players. He's just such a liar and a baby, and I can't wait till he's done. But anyway, enough talking about that disgusting NBA. It's a horrible, horrible thing to even discuss. A couple teams that caught my eye, college basketball-wise, that have started to play pretty good or have played pretty good, just kind of under the radar, that I want to add to some of the teams that I gave you out a couple of weeks ago. Indiana State, 18-3. They're in the Missouri Valley. Pretty good league, pretty good team. Keep an eye on them going forward. And then Dayton, 17-3 on the season. Both these teams seem to be kind of like veteran-laden teams that maybe could be sneaky in the tournament and maybe knock off a couple teams, maybe get Sweet 16 or Elite 8, something like that. I'm not saying you're going to have a repeat of Florida Atlantic again as Liverpool goes up 3-0 now. A horrible showing by Chelsea here at Anfield, but can't say I'm too surprised about that. But anyway, Indiana State and Dayton both playing pretty well. And then New Mexico, I gave that one out earlier in the season. They're 18-3, having a really good season, top 30, I think, in Ken Palm rating. So keep an eye on New Mexico, too. We'll see how these teams do in their conference tournaments. We're going to talk plenty more college basketball here when the Super Bowl is finally over, start breaking down some of these teams that maybe can finish out the season, win their leagues. A lot of competitive leagues right now. Big 12 is the best league in college basketball without question. ACC might be the worst. There are only about maybe two teams are going to get in right now. Duke and North Carolina at this point. I'm not sure Clemson can get in. They're not very good. Miami's just young now. They have some veteran guys, but they're missing. They lost two really, really key, like 7-year seniors from last year. So they could probably beat just about anybody, but they're very inconsistent. They're not nearly as good on defense, but they're continuing to get better with Coach Larinaga. I'm certain of that, and there'll be a team that will have to make a deep run in the ACC tournament to probably make it. They lost to NC State the other night. It was not very good. There's just a lot of bad teams in that league right now. Virginia is just not very good. Wake Forest is no good. Boston College, Syracuse, NC State is just not good at all. Georgia Tech upset North Carolina the other night. They're okay, but Duke's not even really that good. North Carolina's pretty good. Bad league. Big Ten, a little top-heavy. Bottom team's not that good, but there's probably about 5 teams in the Big Ten that I think are pretty solid. Obviously, you have Purdue, who's the perennial dominant team in the league anymore, and then Illinois is playing pretty well. Michigan State's okay. Northwestern's pretty good. I know I'm forgetting a couple other ones, but the league's not bad. Bottom part of the league's not very good at all. You start getting in these teams that can't win on the road, and Iowa and Indiana and Maryland. They're just not even really tournament teams to me. So hopefully the committee will take some of these mid-majors and put them in instead of these big power conferences, which I'm sure they won't because the power conferences bribe them not to do that. And it's kind of a rigged job, and still yet the small schools always seem to find a way to be able to beat some of those big schools, which is always kind of enjoyable, especially in the modern day basketball. And then you have, Pac-12 is not very good. Big 12, far and away the best. Really only 2 teams that you got to say are just not good at all, and that's WVU and Oklahoma State. And West Virginia actually can win some games on their home floor. They've proven that with wins over Kansas and Texas. But plenty more college hoops to come. I'm going to start giving out some look-ahead futures that I'm going to bet. I've given you some teams over the past few months that I've been taking a look at, all of which, other than a couple of those teams, Arkansas and Ole Miss, they're not going to make it. They've both fallen on hard times. Just no consistency out of those 2 teams. But other than that, some of those look-ahead numbers that we gave way back are looking still okay, and we'll probably reinvest in some of those teams and get on some other ones here in the coming weeks. But we're going to take a break here. Bettor's Last Stand, episode number 72, coming to you from the Pine Room Studios, and we will be back after the break to talk about some golf, which is nice to keep doing, and then get into the football plays here. Our early, there's some props I want to go through for the Super Bowl. Nothing super finalized yet. I want to see how some things play out, how the number moves a little bit. But I'm going to give you my first instincts on the game and some of the props that I like. We'll talk about that after the break. It's Bettor's Last Stand from the Pine Room Studio. We'll be back after this.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand, episode number 72. Matt coming to you from the Pine Room Studio here, flying solo. We got Sam coming up in the third portion of the show. All right, a couple things to go through here, some industry things, some stuff that stands out. But first, I want to remind you, this show, as always, brought to you by our good friends at IC Cab, serving the Ohio Valley for your transportation needs. Oh, I was getting ready to sneeze. Sorry. Anyway, IC Cab, serving the Ohio Valley for all your transportation needs. 304-232-1313, or download the IC Cab app today. IC Cab, always working. Get your IC Cab arranged for the Nailer games this weekend. Nailers in town as they host the Orlando Solar Bears for 3 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down at West Banco Arena. Be lining up my IC Cab for that one Friday night, maybe Saturday as well, as you got Pucks and Pups night, so you can take your dog to the game on Saturday if you so choose. And then Sunday afternoon matinee, first 2 games, 7:10 puck drops, 4:10 on Sunday. But again, thanks to our friends at IC Cab for all their continued support. We talk about them quite a bit on the radio as well. So tune into the Watchdog on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday for action-packed Pine Room shows that you're not going to want to miss. But anyway, thanks to Phil and everybody over at IC Cab for everything they've done for us. They're top of the line, that's for sure. Okay, let's go through some industry stuff here that we want to talk about. If you haven't seen this one, LSU's Kayshon Boutte, who now plays for the Patriots, was arrested for an illegal sports betting probe down in Louisiana earlier this week. He apparently made almost 9,000 bets during this time period. He was underage. He was using false accounts. If you want to check out the story, I think David Purdom from ESPN's got a really good write-up on it. Just fascinating stuff. The aliases that he used, using his mom's credit card, and probably the most interesting part of it to me is when he was betting on himself to score touchdowns and to get his yards over. And there's the game last year, the beginning of the season against Florida State, where LSU won the game, and he's pouting on the sidelines, and his teammates are like consoling him, and he's mad because it turns out he bet himself to score a touchdown and like get over 80-something yards, and he only had like 2 catches or whatever. So you had that element to it as well. So I just don't understand these guys thinking that they can get away with this. It's quite amazing. But yeah, read that. It's an incredible read. Just all the things that he was able to get away with there illegally. Nevada Gaming Control, speaking of monitoring bets, they were hacked this past week. I don't know what become of that, but that's quite a bad thing for them. They want to be very careful. You have a lot of things that are going on there that they're overseeing, and access to people's records and things would be one of those. So not good. If you're Nevada Gaming, you want to clean that up. And remember, these people are brilliant, so you better not skimp on cybersecurity, that's for sure. And a lot of the properties on the Strip have found that out the hard way. And then you had a fantasy football cheating scandal. I didn't know about this till this morning, actually. So National Fantasy Football Championship is what the company's called, acknowledged Wednesday that one of its employees used internal controls to make advantageous changes to contestants' rosters after games had already kicked off, including swapping in players who had already scored a touchdown for players that hadn't in the lineup. So this guy I'm assuming he was a guy, they didn't really say, but this person was switching lineups that were people that he knew apparently to try to help them win, and he was getting something out of it. So they gave an example of Raheem Mostert, and then it was the playoff game, actually. It was somebody found it out. So somebody who played at a pretty high-end level, like a high buy-in fee, took screenshots of all the teams they were playing against, rosters before the games kicked off in the first round of the NFL playoffs. It was like Super Wild Card weekend because the Dolphins were playing and the Packers were playing and so forth. But so they took screenshots of these lineups, and that's how they ended up reaching out to the company and said, hey, this team XYZ, they had Raheem Mostert in their lineup when the game started, and he was accruing stats, not as many as Aaron Jones, who they ended up substituting in for him, and Aaron Jones had a huge game in the Packers playoff game. So yeah, so there's cheating out there everywhere. I mean, it's sickening that these people can do this and think they're not going to get caught, but sometimes they don't, and it takes a while. And you're buying into this, and you want integrity, and that's what's so important about integrity in these gaming commissions monitoring this stuff is you want it to be legal, but you got to have that integrity element to it, or it can really it becomes almost like a back alley, back bar type betting again, where they make the rules and you live by them, and it can be tricky, but we'll see where those cases go. But again, 3 interesting things happening there in the industry of sports betting. If you have any questions, always reach out. Contact at thepineroompodcast.com. You can message us on Twitter as well, BLS_PRP. If you have any questions, observations, comments, anything you want to see us do more of, anything you want me to answer more about, going through breaking things down, whether you want to start to get into round robin parlays, or you want to know more about teasers, or the martingale system, or whatever it is you might want to ask about sports betting, Asian handicaps, I'm here to serve. That's what I do on a daily basis, and I'll be happy to go more in depth with that stuff if it is beneficial to you out there. So again, thanks to all our listeners, thanks to all the feedback that we get on the show. We really appreciate everybody who follows us. Chiefs are becoming a pretty big public dog. Last week, a lot of our books kind of were needing the Ravens. We needed the Ravens pretty badly last week. 49ers not covering helped us a little bit, but Chiefs are taking some public money now. They have a Taylor Swift aspect of things, and then Patrick Mahomes catching points. I mean, I've been on him the last 3 weeks, so I can see why people are doing it. So you're getting some crossover there. You're getting some guys that are in the industry that follow it well, that are on the Chiefs, and then you're getting a big slew of people that are just falling in love with the Chiefs now. So, and there's that many more people that hate them. So it's weird. It's like the newer fans now are on the Chiefs, whereas the longtime fans seem to be sick of the Chiefs. I personally am not, but I just respect Patrick Mahomes a great deal. There's a couple of these props before we get into the game props that I like. Super Bowl props. Kelsey to propose to T Swift after the game. Yes, plus 190. No, minus 250. I don't think I can go there with that one yet. And then these were interesting things. Bettor at Caesars wagered $100,000 on tails already at minus 105. Don't really understand that. It's kind of just, I got a lot of money, I'm going to throw it down. Yeah, and then another guy wagered $1 million on the 49ers money line already. So some big bets coming in. You're going to have some 6-7 figures, lots of 6 figures, and then you're going to have some 7-figure bets on the game for sure. Liverpool scores again 4-1 now. Yikes. Chelsea getting absolutely lambasted here at Anfield. And then in some good news. Finally some good news. Peter Angelos and John Angelos are selling the Baltimore Orioles. Boy, it's been a long time since I've been waiting to say those words. Those cheap bastards. They have they've hired really good people, baseball people who have drafted incredibly well. Their development has been superb. I cannot criticize them for that, but they will not spend money. They are as cheap. I'm not going to say cheaper, but they're as cheap as Bob Nutting. They just develop prospects so much better than the Pirates. The Pirates are terrible at that. But the Orioles are a team that really, in the next 3 or 4 years, should be a World Series favorite almost, or a serious contender, whether they're making it to the ALCS a couple times in the next few years. At the very, very least, they've got to get a couple veteran pieces to put in with those incredible prospects. And actually, not even really prospects anymore. These guys are Gunnar Henderson, and these guys are Adley Rutschman. These are the best of the best. You got Jackson Holiday coming up. I mean, these dudes there are so many good ones in there, and they've got to get a few extra pieces, and these guys just won't spend the money. And Angelos is going to make about $1 billion. He bought the team for $173 million in the early 90s and is now going to sell for $1.7 billion. So, GR to them. I hated the old man Angelos. I think he's still alive, but he's a bastard, and the son ain't any better. They're liars. They lied to the government in Maryland when they got that stadium lease. They told them they weren't going to sell the Orioles, and they did. But you know what? If I'm the government of Maryland, I'm happy because these guys are just greedy, just asshole businessmen. Not my kind of guy. Run them out of the city. Get them the hell out of there. Apparently, Cal Ripken may be involved with this ownership group coming in too. So maybe some baseball people who actually know a little bit and can say, hey, you know what? We need to bring a big veteran starter in here. We need to get one more veteran guy in the clubhouse. We got to have that. This team can do it. They're really, really good. So anyway, that's enough baseball. I'll get Sam's opinions on that. A couple of bad beats from the week. VCU last night. Oh, this one hurts. They're getting 4.5 from St. Bonaventure. They were up as many as 20 in the game. They blow the lead late, and they foul with 1 second left. Lose the game by 5 as St. Bonaventure makes a couple free throws, and they don't cover. That is just a gut-wrencher there. 67-62. The final, catching 4.5, up by 20. Oh, that stings bad. Colorado State the other night, 6.5 on the spread. And if you add a money line, if you bet a money line in play or you bet a money line on a parlay or something like that, they were at Wyoming Saturday, led by 11 points late. Lost in overtime. They gave up a 4-point play with 26 seconds left. It was quite a scene. So that was a tough one. They did bounce back and win last night. Dayton and Richmond under 132. This was also on Saturday. Oh, this is a ridiculous scoreline. 20-15. Richmond leads at halftime. 20-15. It's 35 points. I mean, you could give up almost 100. Well, guess what? Goes over by a half. Free throw late. 69-64 Richmond final. Just again, a gut punch. College basketball stinging as bad as baseball. And then an NBA. Oh, yeah, they got to get in the mix. The Thunder. They had been 28-1 when leading in the fourth quarter this year. Well, not anymore. They were -2.5 against the T-Wolves, blew the lead late, and lost the game. I believe that was on Monday. So, yeah, there's your bad beats for the week. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Just really not fun stuff there. So hopefully you didn't have any of those. But if you did, better luck next time. Hopefully things get on the right track. All right, let's talk a little bit Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Tomorrow beginning at, well, actually today if you're listening, or yesterday, it actually teed off. So these will always be posted at BLS_PRP. You can get them on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Usually when they're out west, I'll post them on Thursday morning. Just be sure nobody pulls out. There's nothing worse than that. You get in on somebody, and especially if your book doesn't refund it, which most should, but I don't know. I talked about that last week, too. I think it's wrong. All right, so Pebble Beach, historic place. Bad weather is expected here. You could have some rain. You're going to have some wind. They're out on the sea there in Monterey. It can get really rough. It can be really misty. It can be foggy. It can have a little bit of everything. So good stuff there. I'll be fading Rory McIlroy. That's one thing I do know. He's coming back over to the States. Been playing over in Europe, in Dubai, and all those places. I don't like his game right now. I'm a fader of him anyways. Price is always ridiculous. So my top plays this week. I'm going to start with Max Homa, 16-17-1. Had a good history here. California guy, can play all right in the weather like this, in the wind. I like his game. So he's my I have 3 top picks, and he is one of them. And the other one, Tommy Fleetwood, 36-1. Probably find him upward of 40 if you can hunt around. Be sure you're hunting around at your books. All these apps in West Virginia, Ohio, wherever you're at, you got tons of options. So find the best price. You can find off by $50 at these places. I mean, big differences. And then my last one, Matt Fitzpatrick, 34-1. Probably you can find him in the mid-40s as well. 34 was just the lowest one that I saw. So he is a really good wind and rain type player. Will fit these conditions very well. Like his game, can putt, can do a little bit of everything. I think he could be dangerous today. Keep an eye out for him. So those are my top plays, Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, and Homa. My mid-range guys, Justin Rose won here last year. Like his game a lot. He might be worth a spin on a top 20. Jason Day had last week. Didn't make the cut, but he's played very well in this tournament in the past. Rosie was 75-1. Jason Day 40-1. Justin Thomas, I think his game's starting to come back into form. I think he could be dangerous here. So I'll probably give a look at him for a top 10. Jordan Spieth, 18-1. Probably nobody's had a better track record at Pebble Beach than him over the last decade. He's just been outstanding here. So if you're looking for some matchups, some round matchups and things like that, he might be a guy to play. He's also a guy worth looking at for a top 10. He's going to be right there. He's really, really, his game just suits this course. Patrick Cantlay, playing pretty well right now. You find him around 18-1. He'll be a guy that'll be in the mix here, I would imagine. Plays the course pretty well. And then Victor Hovland, always solid, around 12-1. He's a little too low for me to bet him to win. So I may look at some other things to parlay with him or some other guys to be in the top 10 or top 20, something along those lines. And then a couple of longer bomb guys. Keith Mitchell, around 90-1. Had a really good track history here, so I like his game for this course. Think he could do all right. Brendan Todd actually is taking a lot of steam from other people, so that worries me a little bit. I've heard him given out by other golf guys, and if you listen to other shows, you may have heard. Thought he could do all right here, but now that he's 95-1, you can probably find him 100 and upward. But I don't know if I'll be as excited about that bet now that a lot of people are giving him out. Mark Hubbard, 181, like his game too. He's been pretty solid in a lot of the golf statistical models that are out there. So anyway, those are the bombers there, Todd, Mitchell, and Mark Hubbard. I'll have those posted at the BLS_PRP Twitter X page, so you can check those out. Last week, Matthew Pavon wins on Saturday, the Frenchman, first Frenchman to win on the PGA Tour ever, and you can find him anywhere from 150 to 250-1. We've just had massive bombs coming in the last few weeks. I think a bigger name will win this tournament, I think, but who knows? Golf is so deep right now, so many guys, and now with these live guys all leaving, you're taking out a chunk of 20 top of the world-class guys. Terrell Hatton just went, obviously Rahm a few weeks ago. I mean, you're taking out really good players from these PGA Tour events, which these then it's leaving the door open for these bombers that come in, because if you have if you have the top 20 golfers in the world and 15 of them are in the tournament, chances are, if week in week out, those guys the cream's going to rise to the top, so to speak. But when you start only putting in like 6 of the top 20, and then there's a bigger gap there, and if those 6 guys aren't on their game, there's guys coming out from the clouds to win these events. So keep an eye on it. Golf, a wonderful thing to bet. You get a lot of good value on stuff, and you can lock in some really, really good prices. So keep an eye out. Pebble Beach Pro-Am. It's a fun event to watch. Check it out. I'm sure it's on. I think it's on CBS. You got the Waste Management next week, which is a savage event that you'll want to tune in for. Excitement all around. All right, let's go through the Super Bowl here really quickly. Nothing in the Pro Bowl for me. I don't know if I have anything. I don't even know how you can even make odds on this. We struggled with it last year. It's almost impossible for flag football. It's just nowhere to go. You're basically just putting up a number, money line here or there, AFC, NFC, or however they do the teams. I think it's how we did it last year. So nothing on that one. If anything follows, I'll have that on Twitter or X, BLS_PRP, along with the NHL All-Star Game picks. All right, so my initial thoughts on the Super Bowl are this. I went through and rated 8 categories for the teams, kind of like I did with the coaches and the quarterbacks last couple of weeks. So I went through quarterback, skilled players, offensive, defensive line, linebackers, defensive back, special teams, and head coach. So here we go. So obviously head coach, Kansas City, not even a question. Quarterback, Kansas City, not even a question. Skilled players definitely goes to San Francisco. You got McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Ayuk. Chiefs, they have Kelsey, they have Pacheco, and then they got a rookie, Rice. Those are their only real 3 weapons they have on offense. Offensive line, Kansas City, slightly better. Great all-pro center. 49ers have an all-pro left tackle, actually like an all-world left tackle, but the rest of their line is very, very weak, so the advantage goes to Kansas City. Defensive line, I think, is a push. Kansas City is better in the center of the defensive line with their pass rush. Now, neither team stops the run very well, ironically, but San Francisco maybe on the outside with the edge rushers with Young, who's been awful in the running game, and he really hadn't done a whole lot rushing the passer. And then Bosa, of course. So I gave that one a push. Linebackers, San Francisco, Greenlaw and Warner, they're awesome. I think Kansas City's backers are pretty good, but you got Gay's hurt. Nick Bolton, who's exceptional, but I give San Francisco the nod there. In the linebackers, defensive backs, Kansas City, without question. Their corners are very, very good. One of the best pass defenses in the league this year. Special teams, Kansas City, pretty much a landslide here. You got Butker, who has great range and great accuracy, and you have Moody, who has a really good leg, but is really, really struggling to make kicks right now. So there's an advantage to Kansas City. So it broke down like this: 5-2-1 for Kansas City in that game. So I'm going to be on the Chiefs. I was worried a little bit when the line went open and then rapidly went down to almost a pick 'em, because it opened around San Francisco -2.5, went all the way down to like 1. There was some like Kansas City, like it was almost picks. There was juice to -1, -130, or plus. No, it was actually -1, like plus money, which is, I was like, oh boy, like everybody's gonna bet Kansas City here. So anyway, there's been some buyback on San Francisco. As long as it stays like that, I'll be on Kansas City. But if I start seeing just landslide money on the Chiefs, I'm going to have a hard time doing it. But I'm not going to not bet them. I'm not betting San Francisco. I just trust Mahomes and Andy Reid too much. I do like the under a lot in the game, 47.5. I like the under in the first half, 23. And then just looking ahead, Kansas City, actually not looking ahead yet, but listen to this stat. 18-2 Kansas City second half to the under this year. It's crazy. 3-0 in the playoffs. And then going through some guys who I thought were MVP, potential MVP. Now, this game to me is going to be low scoring. I think there's going to be, the clock's going to bleed a lot. I think both teams realize they can run the ball in this game. I think Mahomes obviously takes care of the ball very, very well. Shanahan is very conservative on offense. I think this game is, unless we have a couple of big plays or broken coverages or special teams or something like that, defensive score, I think the game has a good chance of staying under. And because of that, I could see Harrison Butker or somebody, well, I guess it's not going to be somebody. It's going to be him or Moody, but I could see him kicking like 4 or 5 field goals in this game. So at 300-1, I've seen up to 400-1. I think throwing a few dollars on Harrison Butker to be the MVP is not stupid. And then I think if you're going to look at the Chiefs in a low-scoring game, if really there's not anything, I know they'll probably just give it to Mahomes, but if you want to take a roll of the dice like I have, and I've actually done pretty well in MVPs in the past with some under-the-radar type MVPs. Defense, I think I had a defensive. There was a defensive MVP. I don't know if it was Vaughn Miller, if he got it. But anyway, and I know I had Deion Branch one time, which is way under the radar at a really big price. But I thought L'Jarius Sneed was interesting. I thought Justin Reed was interesting. I thought Nick Bolton was interesting. And I thought Drew Tranquil. They're all at least 150-1. Tranquil all the way up to 400-1. Bolton I had last year, and he had a pick 6, and he almost had a second one, but it ended up getting called down. Because if he had that, I probably would have hit that ticket at like 350-1. So I was begging for that one. But anyway, those are some guys I'm on MVP. Nothing super finalized yet. Going through a few of these props, though, that I like early. Just things to think about. Any team to make a walk-off field goal, I think that's definitely in play. That's yes, 8 plus 825. I think that's definitely in play. This will be a tight game, I would expect. Octopus had one last year. That's a touchdown and a 2-point conversion scored by the same guy. Jalen Hurts ran the touchdown in and then ran the 2-pointer in last year. I think when you have a game like when you have Kelsey, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, that's all very lively. Plus 1150 for a Octopus. I think that can come into play too, even in a low-scoring game. Sometimes the low-scoring games have more of a chance of having 2-point plays because there's not a lot of scoring, and you're strategically trying to figure out how I'm going to best get my team to avoid an overtime or however I'm going to try to gain the advantage back. Position for the MVP, like I said, kicker, you can get kicker, punter, long snapper. The long snapper would have to have recovered like 2 fumbles or something. I don't know how that could work, but 150-1, I thought that was worth it. Will there be a field goal in the first quarter? I said yes on that one at -120. I think that's a very good one. Will there be a touchdown in every quarter? I said no at -180. 2-point conversion successful, plus 325 to the yes. I like that one. Team total for Kansas City. Team total touchdowns under 2.5. Team total touchdowns San Francisco under 2.5. I think both of those are worth a look. And then switching over to a couple of player props that will be on here early. These are all, try to go through these and you make your first gut instinct. Take a paper, go through them, find the ones that immediately in your mind say, I like this, and then come back, and then you can start doing a little bit more research. I think Purdy passing yards under 247.5. I think that's a great one, -120. Pacheco over his rushing yards, seen anywhere from 63 to 69.5 for that, over -125. I think he'll be relied upon really, really heavily. Kelsey, 60s, high 60s, low 70s for him. Receiving yards, I think you probably take a shot with him or the over. I like that, -120. Butker to make more than one field goal, -125. I love that one. And then Marquise Valdez-Scantling, over 1.5 receptions, -125. I also think him, there's some of those props for the longest reception, he might be worth a peek too, as he's played pretty well here the last couple of weeks, I got to say, so he'll probably drop like 6 balls in this game. All right, that's going to do it for the second. This is the second segment. Second segment of Bettor's Last Stand, show number 72. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with our man Sam. We're going to talk about the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum this weekend, get his thoughts on everything, MLB, NBA, NHL, and of course, NFL. It's Bettor's Last Stand from the Pine Room Studios, presented to you by our friends at IC Cab. We'll be back after the break.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand, show number 72. Sam joins us now here in the third segment. And, man, Sam, I'm pumped up because we get to talk about racing finally. It's been a long winter, but racing is upon us here as we head to the L.A. Coliseum. I know it's not our favorite event, but, hey, it's getting us a couple weeks closer to Daytona.
Yeah, you know what? It's good to be here, first of all, Matt, because it is race season. It's official.
Right.
I can feel it. I was jotting notes about the 2024 season. That's huge.
I know. There's
no argument.
I enjoyed it a lot, and also last night I didn't get to start watching it yet, but I saw that Netflix has this show on NASCAR that they just did, and it just came out this week. So I'm going to start watching that now too, and that's going to get me fired up for the season. But yeah, it was nice to start jotting down notes and looking back at some of the guys who ended the season well and who didn't end the season so well, and then just some of the guys who raced well at the Busch Light Clash the last couple of seasons. So super exciting stuff. I guess let's start there. Let's not waste any time. Thoughts on the overall event? I know it's not your favorite. It's not my favorite, but like I said, at least it's something.
Yeah, it is something. I don't get it, but I don't. It's like the NFL is like, hey, we're gonna start the season 7-on-7.
Right.
We can't get everybody out there, but this is what we got. Nonetheless, it's not gonna be as exciting as it should be because we're still in this Super Bowl hype. We need that.
Right.
We need that to end. Once that ends and we're really stuck with basketball and hockey, I think that's when it sets in. It's like it's race season.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll be 2 weeks away from Daytona this Sunday, so that's an awesome feeling to have. So wait, you told me this before and I can't remember. Who's the halftime show for this year for the?
It's Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh yeah. Okay. How could I forget that? Jeez.
I know it's tough to forget.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had Ice Cube a couple years ago, and and maybe Pitbull was there one time.
Pitbull's performing, I think, either before or after.
Okay. Well, he's
race,
involved in racing, so he probably
right.
pretty excited about it. All right. So let's start. Let's just talk about, I guess, some of the new faces here. I mean, I guess we should start with Stewart Haas, who has the big overhaul. Like their whole team is. Well, I mean, you had Priest running for them last year, and obviously you had Briscoe, but now you got Noah Gragson and Josh Berry into the mix in the 10 and the 4. That's so weird. That, like, I liked it better, like, and I know this is not always possible now with the way they have these things chartered and the way they own the car numbers, but it was like, it's like a sudden thing for me when a guy goes right into Kevin Harvick's number 4 car. I wish they had another number they could use for like a season or two.
I'm not a fan of it. I think it should be Kevin Harvick's 4. I think that Josh Berry should have his own number.
Right. For now,
agree.
at least. I mean, until he at least proves himself. And then, maybe a year or two under his belt, he's winning races, he's contending for titles, and maybe we let him go into the 4 car. But I had the same feeling with the Dale Earnhardt back in the old days when someone goes right into the number 3. But at least now Richard Childress, who was obviously the owner of his team, owns that 3 now, so it's not as bad. But boy, Austin Dillon doesn't deserve that 3. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's tough when Austin Dillon's in the 3.
Although Austin Dillon has run well here at the Clash. He's got a second and a third under his belt. The problem is when the real points races start, he sucks.
Irrelevant.
All right, so Noah Gragson, we talked about him. He's had some issues off the track. He's an interesting character. Josh Berry seems a little more stable, pretty talented driver. What do you expect out of those two guys this year?
I think Berry is going to be all right. Gragson's the big risk because I've heard on several different, podcasts and shows that, like, Gragson's got talent. He can drive.
Right.
Maybe he shouldn't have gone to Legacy. Maybe he shouldn't have liked a couple of the things that he liked on the internet,
Right.
Just the typical things that get you in trouble at work. Also getting under the tire barriers twice in the Wendy's car. I'll never forget that until I die.
Wendy's is probably so happy he's not affiliated with them anymore.
That was one of the most comical races I've ever
McDonald's
watched.
and Wendy's, both under those big barriers.
And it was fucking Sunny D. Ricky Stenhouse went under there too.
Yep.
But I think it's gonna be good. I think for Stewart Haas it's gonna be good. It's probably tough to transition from like Almirola.
Yeah, I know.
And getting rid of those guys that have been such a solid part of your team.
Right.
So I think Berry will be better.
And I'm not going to know what to do now. Almirola's out of the restrictor plate races because he was a guy that I counted on a lot.
Solid.
He outran his odds almost all the time. He was one of the best. It wouldn't surprise me if he popped into another car for one of those big Daytona races or Talladega because he is such a good plate racer. I could see him running a couple of races. I don't know if he said no or he would do that, but it wouldn't surprise me if I saw him do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a waste not to. He's been there too long. He's seen too much. And
he could get somebody a win that they would never otherwise be able to get. So I think that's something you definitely would expect to have happen. It's not like when they would bring Jimmy Johnson back in that Legacy Motor Club car when he had no chance to win. He goes from having the best equipment and the best pit crew every week to the absolute worst. Speaking of Legacy Motor Club, John Hunter Nemechek back in the big leagues. Obviously, he handled that thing really well, going back down. I mean, he went back down to the lowest he could go and then works his way back up. But he said build his confidence back up. He thinks he's better for it. And I didn't think he was terrible when he came up. He was always around, like, what he reminded me of? I hate to even compare him to Lance Stroll in the F1 circuit, but he was always like in the 15 to 20 range. He was never down in the 30s, but he was never really up in the top 10 a lot. He was just in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and you saying John Hunter Nemechek, Legacy Motor Club in general, it's a huge year because they're not with Chevy anymore.
Right.
It's their first year with Toyota, and a lot of stuff that I read that apparently Chevy was giving them the bad end of the stick when it comes to, like, just dealing with their cars and their engines and stuff like that.
Right.
So maybe this switch is going to be like when I was talking about RFK last year and how they all needed to go. And, maybe these guys are going to run all right. Like, Jones runs probably, 3 or 4 solid races a year.
Yeah. There's a couple of tracks that he's really, really good at and, like, a win contender at. I think Darlington comes to mind, and there's 1 or 2 other ones that Eric Jones, him and Daniel Suarez, to me, are guys that I don't know. Maybe it's their fault. Maybe they have found the right circumstance and they just haven't made the most of it. But to me, I feel like if those guys would get into the right rides, I think they would drastically improve their chances of winning races on a regular basis. But I don't know. I mean, I think Eric Jones is a contender. We'll see though. That Legacy Motor Club, we'll see. I'm hopeful that they are a contender, but you really don't know. But all right. let's see. Anybody else? I'm looking down my list here if there's anyone else that I wanted to hit on as far as new rides. Anybody that comes to mind for you? I don't think there's a whole lot.
There's I'm looking at the entry list for the Clash right now.
Right.
There's like Josh Williams is racing for Colleague.
Right.
I mean, let's see.
Daniel Hemrick's still with Colleague.
Oh yeah,
right?
Justin Haley's in the 51.
And then Zane Smith he's for Spire, I believe.
Yep, Zane and Carson Hocevar are both.
And then
fresh faces.
Kaz Grayla is gonna run the whole circuit for Rick Ware, I guess. From
which I
I've
find ridiculous. Yeah. I think that is so stupid. Nobody knows who this guy is.
Yeah, it's that.
And then he's gonna run
bizarre.
the opening race for Rick Ware. That's the whole issue with Rick Ware.
Yeah, well, that's why you stay away from Rick Ware. All right, so Martin Truex won this last year. Joey Logano the year before that. As I mentioned, Austin Dillon has a couple of top fives in the event. If people aren't familiar with it, they do this heat racing, and then there's the last in. So they I'm trying to think, did they have 20? How many cars were in the finals on the final race last year? 20, or low 20s?
I thought it was like 23.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 23. So, yeah, the 23 spots, they can't, as Sam said, track's too small, and it's like playing 7-on-7 because you can't get all the field in there. But so you got about 15 cars that, actually in this case it'll be more than that, but be about 20 cars probably that won't make the final race. But just talking about some of the top contenders, obviously Truex, Logano have had success here. Denny Hamlin has not had that much success here, but you can't count him out. Your boy Kyle Busch, Sam, he's run well here before too, a second and a third. Who stands out to you or your top contenders for the Clash this weekend?
Well, you just said it. The guy that I picked to win it all last year, Kyle Busch.
All right.
I think Kyle Busch I think he's going to have a good year. I may even go back to back on the picks to win it all. I'm not sure yet. I haven't come to that final conclusion. But a name that also stands out to me, and I know it's a big risk, first one of the year, is Justin Haley. I
got him too. He's my dark horse in this race. He's ran well here. I think he's a good driver. I do. I've said that before.
I do too.
I think
it also reminds me of the Chicago street race. It was Justin Haley and Van Gisbergen that were battling up front towards the end, and Haley was good, but Van Gisbergen, he kicked their ass.
Yeah, I know. How about that one? Any of the other big names that you expect to be in contention here? What do you think about Larson? He's run pretty well, 2 top 5s.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, I don't hate Blaney either.
Yeah,
I really don't. I fingers crossed. I really hope Blaney can transition this into another
I know.
Kind of
it worries me a little
step.
bit. He's been on a party circuit pretty good, and I really, really like him as a guy. But it may take him a while to get zeroed back in. But we'll see. How about Chase Elliott? What happens to him? We'll talk more about it when we head towards Daytona. But this is a big season for him. He's still the most popular driver, but last year was a total disaster.
Yeah, he's kind of like floating out in space for me right now. Like he's his solid, he's solid where he is. He's not going anywhere, but you gotta get at least 2 to 3 wins.
Right.
I think minimum.
Yeah, and you gotta be down to the into the final couple stages of the playoffs too, where you're down to the last few races for sure. I'd expect him to rebound hard. He could be very motivated. A couple guys I liked for this week I want to get your opinion on. I'm big on Tyler Reddick in this race for some reason, and I like William Byron as well.
Yeah, I actually was looking at Reddick and Chastain. Their numbers I like a lot, like plus 2,000, plus 2,200.
Yep.
At least what I'm looking at here.
Yep, that's what I got.
I think
Reddick.
Chastain I would take over Reddick. I'm not sure why. I just feel like Trackhouse has a new life, new fresh air. They got Harvick's, Busch Light sponsor. They have a bunch of money. They got a bunch of funds. So
they're definitely the hot team. Them and RFK were the hot team. Where do you sit with RFK? Can they continue the momentum?
Matt, that stretch they had last year, the second half of the season was unbelievable.
Probably maybe the 2 best cars.
Yeah, they were. They really were. I pray that can happen again because it was exciting to watch and I loved it. It just seems like it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
but you know what? I said that last year.
Yeah.
I said that
well,
last
yeah,
year.
I know. They did not start out well, but they really, really got the momentum going, and obviously, Keselowski really put it together. But Buescher was exceptional last year. He outperformed anything he had previously ever done. I think this is a big year for a few guys. Obviously, we've talked about it before in the past. With we got his flag up here on the wall, Alex Bowman. Big year for him, and Austin Cindric will probably never get fired from Penske, but
Never.
he's got to pick it up, man. He can't just. He's got to be better. He's a really good road racer and a really good plate racer, and last year he wasn't very much of a contender at either one.
No, I'd take Kaz Gralla over Austin Cindric in this race. I would. I think Cindric DNF'd last year in this race.
I think he did too. He was atrocious. But all right. Anything else you want to hit on before we move to some of the other less exciting sports?
I don't think so. I'm excited. Okay. Do you want it to be a good race, or do you want it to be a bad race so they don't come back? Because this is, contract year. It's up.
Yeah, I know, and I'm wondering what they'll do. I'm wondering where they'll take it, because I know that the whole point of doing this is trying to bring more eyeballs in, obviously, that giant metropolitan area out there. I get that, and that is good for racing. So I do think if they move it, I think they'll try to go for another big score. I don't know what they could come up with. Like, I could see them trying to do this at, like, MetLife Stadium or something. You know what I mean? Like, something like in the New York market, it probably couldn't be there, but like something that would give them I don't know. I don't know what they would come up with, but if they're not going to renew it there, and then I think they'll go to another metropolitan market, because they figure this, getting people, because they know all of us diehards are going to be watching this even if we hate it. Like, we're going to do it anyway. So it's like, I'm going to try to attract somebody who isn't into this sport yet and bring them out to the track. So, but I kind of hope it's chaos, but I don't know.
I do too.
I'd like to see a little bit of good racing, but if it's
how can you, Matt?
Yeah,
you can fucking throw a rock and hit the car on the other side of the track.
It's really like being at some go-kart tracks that you've seen in your lifetime, really.
Yeah.
It's not much different. But
honestly, Matt, it's like they set up the track inside of West Banco.
Right.
They said, fucking run it here.
They should try that, yeah. But we look forward to the Clash this week. I'll post our picks on the Twitter page, BLS_PRP. Hopefully we can get a couple of early season winners there. 2 weeks till Daytona. That's a great feeling. All right, Sam, tell me about with the NBA right now. We got some teams who are not playing so well. We got some other teams like the Knicks who are playing hot, although your boy aircraft carrier crashed the other day.
Dude.
But it sounds like the Knicks could be in line for another trade here. Maybe Malcolm Brogdon or something. So tell me about the Eastern Conference. Anybody that Embiid got hurt last night. What's going to happen to him? Celtics aren't playing very well. Bucks got a new coach. Give me some gut feelings on the NBA right now.
One, the Embiid thing I find very odd that, that 65 game thing that they need for that.
Right.
I find it odd that he was not feeling too hot, but he played.
Right.
The Bucks coach thing, I don't think Doc Rivers is it.
No.
That's like a typical hire. I don't even know. That's just like the coaching carousel of like, who's available. I'm surprised they didn't hire what's his face from the Warriors after, the guy before Steve Kerr.
Don Nelson?
No,
he was there before.
Mark
Jackson.
Mark Jackson.
Mike Brown. He was too.
Yeah,
Mark Jackson before he couldn't figure out with those guys in their primes. He couldn't figure it out. Yeah,
right. Like, I'm surprised they didn't hire that guy. But the East is weird because it seems like the dominant team is just going to be the Celtics to me.
Yeah, and even they haven't played very well the last week, but maybe these guys are kind of hitting the wall. Maybe the All-Star break and they get it. You may get. I wouldn't imagine Boston would make too many moves, though. Would you?
I don't know what else they really need.
I think Philadelphia will. I think New York will try to. Maybe the Pacers will try to make another move.
I was reading that Knicks might get Bruce Brown, but I don't think Bruce Brown's got the. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, at least if they get him, he won't go to the Lakers. Moving out west now. LeBron had another meltdown last night. I've never seen a guy complain so much, and he gets all the calls, and he still complains. And now he wants better players. And Anthony Davis is going through his usual PMS period where he can't, perform at all, and he's always hurt. So I don't know. What do you make of out west? The Clippers maybe still the standout team.
Definitely the standout team, but I'm a huge fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes.
The plus 1,900 to win it. I think they're so solid at every position, and the players know what they need to do to win.
Yeah.
I just think that they're a very dangerous team. And the Suns, I cannot stand the Suns. They are the most overrated team.
Yes. No bench. No,
you're right. No bench. They just have 3 superstars. And Grayson Allen too. You got to shout out to Grayson Allen, still in the league,
hanging on.
I like the Thunder. Honestly,
Yeah,
out of all
I
those
hope they
teams.
can put it together. I do. They've had a pretty strong season. T-Wolves, you just wonder how these teams will play. Obviously a lot of it depends on who they match up with in the playoffs. The longer you can stay away from the Clippers, I think it'll probably be good for everybody. But I'd also expect some of these teams to make some moves. There'll be some guys that get bought out that are going to go join a team to try to championship chase. And so we'll see who can amass the better reserve players, because that's kind of what it's going to come down to.
Like when I look at this, you see the T-Wolves in first, 33-14.
Right.
And when I think of, like, let's say Noah Gregson, I think of under the tire barriers, right? When I think of the Timberwolves, I think of Karl Anthony Towns scoring 62
and losing.
And they lose.
Yep.
It's like these regular season records.
Can't trust them.
No, I don't trust any of it.
Yeah, and it's like
any of it.
I would say more so than even in the olden days. In hockey, the same exact way. Like, it doesn't, like, the 1 versus 8. Well, you have that play-in round, but whoever the team that faces the number 1 seed. If it's a team that matches up good with them, they'll have a chance to beat them.
Look at the Panthers. Panthers
Right.
went on that run. They beat Boston and then
so
kept it moving, man.
anything is possible, I would say. How about going back to the East real quick? What do you think of the Miami Heat? I thought that trade they made last week was pretty decent, but they've not really gotten on track at all. But I trust Spoelstra enough. Maybe they'll get it together when they need to.
We're not part of Heat culture, so we don't have the inside information. But I don't think they're as good as. They're 24-23, but I don't think they're that good. I really don't.
And even last year, remember they were shit last year, and then caught fire in the playoffs, and just So I don't know who's going to be that team.
Jimmy and Bam Adebayo.
And Jimmy just looks like he gets older every night. I like the guy, but at least they got rid of Kyle Lowry. It was painful to watch him out there.
Hey, I wouldn't mind a Pacers Thunder NBA Finals.
That would be awesome. I'd actually really enjoy that. Just get something fresh out there.
Awesome.
The Thunder, what could have been. I really thought when they made it to that finals, when all them guys were there, when Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, I thought I thought they were going to be the Warriors. Like, I thought they were going to be back there several times, and then then that happened. Then those idiots all go rogue and try to win alone. It didn't work out very well. Durant championship chased, and the other two, all right, NHL, we're on All-Star break this week. Penguins probably need it. They're, other than Crosby, it's not pretty right now. They demoted Carlson off the power play finally. Letang back. Are they going to trade Gensel? I was saying earlier in the show, I wish they would trade Jari. There's teams out there dying for a goalie, and the national narrative with him is not the same as our local area. People who watch the Penguins every night know we can never count on him in a playoff series. But the national people up there in Western Canada, they think this dude's a freaking god. I say trade him to the Oilers and be done with it. Get something decent back.
We'll give you Gensel and Jari.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're right. Jari is it's like the Matt Murray thing.
Right.
Everyone loved Matt Murray.
Matt Murray actually won.
Great.
Yeah.
Right, Matt Murray won, but I never thought he was like a superstar.
No, I agree with you.
They made that trade for him, and they were all excited up north, and then he's on the Dallas Stars now.
Barely sees any time. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Penguins.
My Kings are struggling too.
Oh God, they've hit the skids
Jesus
bad.
Christ.
I know. Winnipeg playing pretty well right now, but this time of the year, you just don't know how teams are come back out of the All-Star break is going to tell you a lot. A lot of these teams need some rest. I think the Kings are one of those teams. They really, really hit the wall. I don't know. I guess we'll reevaluate once we see what people do, and if some of these teams, I thought Detroit was interesting if they can make a trade for goalie or upgrade a little bit, but I don't know. Rangers haven't been playing well towards the end of the first part of the season, and then the Devils have been pretty disappointing for people. So have the Sabres. Were a lot of people talked about the Sabres, and they've been awful. So I don't know. I think the Eastern Conference is looking pretty ragged right now. It looks like the Western Conference might be significantly better.
Honestly, the Avalanche will probably win it all. They're sick.
They are. And then, I mean, I don't know what Edmonton is going to be going to tie the Penguins' 17-game win streak here after the break against Vegas. But I would say I don't think Edmonton can win it. I really don't. I just don't know if they have good enough goaltending, but they have improved. But I would say you're right. Colorado, Vegas, I mean, those teams, Dallas is pretty solid. I mean, the West has some pretty good teams.
Yeah, they do. I just think something about the Avalanche and McKinnon and McCarr and just everything that they remind me of the Lightning.
Yeah, no, they you're right. They're like the mini Lightning. And then they'll probably add a guy or two, and there'll be somebody on one of these teams like Buffalo or one of these teams is way out of it that they'll start dumping guys, and they'll pick up some depth players. I saw Corey Perry's back in the league now. So after that weird situation. But, yeah, NHL All-Star Game, or it's not even a game, really. It's a 3-on-3 tournament this weekend in Toronto, so I'm sure that's not going to be
shit show.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's anything we can give out to the people on that one. How about baseball? One bit of good news today for me: the Orioles, the Angelos family sells the Orioles. This is a great thing. This would be about as big a deal as if the Pirates were being sold by the Nuttings. That would be how big this is.
I can only imagine how excited I would be.
They'd be shooting fireworks off in the city right now. The Oriole people are probably having a parade.
I think that he would be shocked at how excited the city would be if he gave up ownership. Like, he'd be devastated.
Here's what I could predict happening. If he even announced that he could play the ultimate fuck you on the city if he wanted to and say he's going to sell the team, season tickets would go through the roof, and then he would say, I'm not selling anymore because he's so cheap.
Yep. I just changed my mind.
That would be a move he would make. All right, now rounding it out, football. Last week was a disgusting performance by the Ravens. I don't know what the hell they were doing. Chiefs get the job done there, and then the Lions blow it against the 49ers. What were your thoughts on the two conference championship games? You did get Zay Flowers to score, but then he went nuts, a fucking moron. He could have had two, and he cut his hand, and he got a taunting call. It was a mess.
It was a total mess. I think Lamar I don't know if it was him, but he made some bad decisions.
Yeah.
That interception was terrible. At the end of the game. I just think that the Chiefs, it's like playing the Patriots. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It's just that weird, they're just there. They show up. It's Mahomes. It's Kelsey. It's Reed.
Yes.
They don't need more than 17 points, obviously, to win.
Yeah, not anymore. They don't.
So I just think that Lamar, a ton of pressure on him, too. Great season, MVP.
Yeah, and they abandon the run game. They try to make him force him to pass too much. I don't know. Something was off. The Baltimore defense played well enough to win. They shut him out in the second half, and Kansas City's defense has been really well or played very well. But yeah, you're right. They are the new Patriots right now. There's no question about it.
And like Valdez-Scantling, he caught that. You know what I mean? Like, when you're catching that ball in that moment, that's when you know. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this guy drops him. He's 9 yards behind a guy, and it's right in his hands and in stride, and then he makes this diving play to seal the game. Just crazy stuff. But hey, like I said last week on here, I thought Kansas City was the bet. You can't go against them right now, and especially when they're catching points. And then over to the other game, oh, boy, Dan Campbell. Oh, boy. Just some interesting decisions. Everybody loves it when he's a gambler during the season, but this isn't Week 5 against the Bears. This is at San Francisco. You're in the lead by 17 points. You have a chance to go back up 17. Field goal's never a guarantee, but got a pretty good kicker. I don't know what he's doing there. I don't know what they're doing to timeout at the end. I don't know. It was a mess.
I like that he followed his gut, the same thing he did all season.
Right.
But it's just a different scenario.
Sure.
It's like the Super Bowl. This is the only chance they may ever have to get there. And like any opportunity I had to take a 17-point lead to even 20, I'm taking it
Get as
every
far ahead as
time.
you can.
Right. Points. And it's just, once they didn't convert that first one, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's like a momentum thing
it was.
Plays into their
head. And then Frisco goes down, scores, and then Gibbs fumbles, and then the game's tied. It's like blink of an eye. Yeah, you knew it was trouble there. And San Francisco is not a team built to come back. They've really struggled in that role. But then when you gift them a possession like that, basically turning away points and then turning the ball over the next time, they didn't have to do a whole lot. But Early thoughts on we'll talk more about it next week, but early thoughts on the game as a whole, 49ers and Chiefs?
Give me the. I'm just gonna say right now. Give me the Chiefs. I'm not doing anything against Mahomes.
Nothing fancy. That's what
I hope Shanahan does another Shanahan. He's in the spotlight again.
Oh yeah, he will be pissing down his leg, I'm sure. Yeah, I went through because I was going through just the comparisons of the teams, and if you just start right out of the chute with coach and quarterback, the Chiefs have a distinct advantage. Like nothing against Purdy, but he's not Mahomes. Nobody is. And I don't know. San Francisco's got some holes. I kind of think the wrong team's favored in the game, to be quite honest with you. But San Francisco's been power rated through the roof all season. But they have not played well, probably the last 5 weeks.
No, I just think that, like you said it honestly, like they have Mahomes and Reed, they have Purdy, but it's not even Purdy. It's everything around him. I like the Chiefs. I'm not doubting Mahomes. I'm not doing it.
Hard to go against them. And then you got the world of T Swift on their side too.
Jesus, man.
Which is craziness. It's gonna blow up some TV ratings. That's for sure here in a couple of weeks. But all right, Sam. Pleasure as always. Enjoy the racing action. It's great to say that this week.
I know.
We will talk to you next week. Enjoy the clash. Best of luck in your bets. And if anything pops up on your NBA radar, you gave me a good winner last night with Clint Capella. Rebounds over.
Baby.
So shoot it our way, and we'll be happy to post it. So thanks again, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, go Bucks.
All right. That's Sammy P. from Upper St. Clair. Great insight and analysis, as always, from him. Thanks to him for joining us today. That's going to do it for us here at Bettor's Last Stand, show number 72 from the Pine Room Studio, presented by IC Cab. Be sure and join us tomorrow, or today, actually, Friday, on the radio, 12 to 3. We got a loaded show. You're not going to want to miss it. Lunch Madness. Isaac Basinger talking Nailers, and Kurt Stein checks in from Maryland talking about his high school football program that he's built up out there. All right, that's going to do it for us. Best of luck this week, and we will be back here in the Pine Room Studio next week for another episode of Bettor's Last Stand. Good luck to everybody in their bets, and we'll see you next time. All right, welcome in. Bettor's Last Stand, back after a Thanksgiving hiatus. Last time we were seen over at Belmont Brew Works. Had our buddy Rick on the show. He had us over. It was a great evening. We talked a lot about sports betting on the show, as always, and then had a few drinks and something to eat. So it was a good time. Chris here with me in the studio.
Hello.